So this RAM also helps to portray the 3 laws of relationships. The first is the law of diminishing returns. There's a limited shelf life to each of these bonds in your relationship, and life will naturally deflate each of these bonds of your relationship. So it's normal that one or more of these bonds will drop. You could say it's normal to become imbalanced in your relationship. Bottom line, you cannot escape it. Life will mess you up.
I work as a firefighter, so I have 24-hour shifts that I have to do. And if I work any extra overtime, I might be gone for 36 to 48 hours. So that's probably when I've gotten out of balance, because I'm trying to go out and make money, take care of the family, but at the same time, I have a family at home that still needs me, children, wife.
And I think we added it up, and I was involved in 11 different things besides work, and I was typically in charge of whatever I was involved in. So for me, it was community stuff, then it was our career, and then it was family.
I get really frustrated too about kids' sports when you've got 3 boys in sports and they're in 3 different towns at the same time doing 3 different baseball games, and then you feel like a weekend where you should be able to spend some time together, you can't. That's really frustrating to me.
For us, feel most out of balance when we're overcommitted.
Yeah.
We have very, very busy lives, 3 active children, and when our schedules get overwhelmed with stuff, activities, appointments, engagements, we're just out of sync. We are literally 2 ships passing in the night, and there's weeks that go by where we don't even sit down for a family meal.
A time in my marriage where my husband and I were really out of balance was right after we had our first baby. And right there, that's enough to throw a marriage kind of out of balance. But then he got a job promotion, and then we had to move across the country for that job promotion. So that was a pretty intense time for us.
It's just normal for life to imbalance us, but these normal imbalances we've been talking about don't even take into account shortcomings or failures that may occur in a marriage relationship. One thing you can definitely count on as your marriage continues through life, it is normal for your relationship to get out of balance. But listen, the danger is not becoming imbalanced, but staying imbalanced. This is a second law of your relationships. We will call it the law of slow leaks. This law simply states that when your relationship gets out of balance, if it stays too long, a slow leak will either flatten your relationship or eventually lead to a big blowout.
If relationships do not run themselves, then they are not self-correcting either. It's normal that things in life will deflate one or more of the bonds in your relationship. But if you're not paying attention to your relationship, then that slow leak can really create a vulnerability.
Too many couples live by what I call the starvation principle. Only eat when starving. What this looks like in a marriage is that here's lots of busyness going on. Kids stuff, house stuff, job stuff, church stuff, life stuff. And then, like we said in the beginning of the session, most couples don't necessarily have a plan for running their relationship. They run all that other stuff, the schedules for the kids, the budget, the work hours, but no plan for their relationship bonds.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden, one of the 2 partners, and often I'd say it's the wife, realizes that she is starving for a bit of adult time, some romantic time with her husband.
Things are out of balance.
Right, so then she approaches her husband, we have got to get some us time.
Oh, that's right. And so they decide to go out. So at first it kind of feels like they're strangers. It's been so long since they've talked, they don't even know what to talk about. But as the evening continues, they start reconnecting. They have some talking, some laughing, some flirting. And then when they head home, after finally feeling like they're back in their relationship again, everything's kind of back to normal. These levels have been moving back up, right? So as they get home, they pull in their driveway, they look at that house where all the kids are and all that busy life is, and they look at each other, and I find every couple says the exact same thing. We have got to do this more often. But then they go in the house, the craziness of their lives all kicks right back in, and next thing you know, they all get out of balance and don't actually take care of their relationship until they're starving again.
So true. Well, this leads us right up to the last law, which is the one key to relationship success, and that's the law of frequent realignments. The key to a successful relationship is to intentionally and regularly realign your imbalances. This means you need to identify what is deflated a little bit, and then you gotta make a plan for bringing that area up back to full strength. This course will have lots of things that you'll learn and practice and hopefully are inspired to keep growing in your marriage relationship. But if there was only one takeaway for the entire course, it would be for you to have frequent huddles. A huddle is your couple planning meeting, where you use the RAM as the framework for a brief 20-minute planning meeting. Like we said earlier, this RAM is like your relationship GPS. So we're going to give you a 5-step plan to regularly realign your relationship in your couple huddle.
You know, a favorite verse of mine is found in the New Testament in the book of Philippians. And it reads, "Work out your own salvation with fear and trembling." And if it just stopped there, it would be a bit daunting, you know? But it goes on to say, "For it is God who is at work in you, both to will and do of his good pleasure." I like this verse because it really captures the fact that God wants to collaborate with us in our relationship, even our relationship with him. He wants to work in us, but he also wants us to work out that relationship. On the one hand, he is empowering us to run our relationships, but on the other hand, he is expecting us to do something, to take some responsibility. He expects us to do our part. You know, if you just replace that word salvation with relationship to God, then you could see that relationships are these two-way streets, even between you and God. For it would read, "Work out your own relationship to God with fear and trembling. For it is God who is at work in you, both to will and do of his good pleasure." In other words, God's working in you, but he wants you to do your part. In a similar way, I think it's not too much liberty with that passage to put in just about any relationship and see this principle applying. For example, work out your own relationship in marriage with fear and trembling. Some of you are like, "I've been there, done that." But the reality is, God is at work in that relationship marriage to really will and do of his good pleasure. This collaboration is, God wants to empower you to work out your marriage relationship. He doesn't want to do all the work for you, and he doesn't want you to do it without his involvement. So our entire series will be about helping you to understand your relationship and to use this RAM model to define exactly where you are in your relationship, where there are some imbalances, what you need to do, and to actually have a plan how to strengthen those bonds that life just naturally has weakened. To be intentional and active about running your marriage relationship while God continues to will and do of his good pleasure in your lives together.